Good morning, Flagler. The doctors are in. I'm Dr. Scott Cleos.
And I'm Dr. Andrea Cleos.
And we are here once again to talk about your health and health issues right here in Flagler, Volusia, and St. Johns County. For those of you that joined us last week, you may recall that we talked about an awesome movie that hopefully you guys got to see called Kiss the Ground. And it's all about regenerative farming and how it's great for our bodies, for our environment, help reduce greenhouse gases, and may even, improve our weather conditions. And as we get closer and closer to August over here in Florida, that means a big deal to us, right? Hurricane season, it's a-coming, right?
Amen.
The hurricanes are coming. So it's something that's really mind-provoking. I mean, you watch it and you're thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, we've been screwing up all these years, and we let the government, as usual, convince us that this is what we were supposed to do, and the government are basically idiots. I mean, they're like us, except we put them in positions of power, and they're driven by money. And that was the best part about the second movie that we saw, which was Common Ground.
Amazon Prime.
It shows you where you follow the money, you know why we are where we're at this point in space-time. And we're going to talk about a little bit of that on the show today. So just to kind of remind you guys who did not see last week's show and didn't watch Kiss the Ground, it was all about using regenerative farming and using the natural biomechanisms of plants to trap greenhouse gases, bring them back into the earth, and deposit them under the soil, remove them from the atmosphere, and help with reducing these greenhouse gases and may improving our environment right here on Earth. It also produces better food. It reduces the need to use pesticides and fertilizers and all kinds of chemicals. So it's a healthier way to farm, and we've got people that are doing it now, and at the end of the day, it increases,
including us?
It increases the profitability from the numbers we were quoted was $3 an acre if you're using the government subsidies and all of their, farming recommendations with fertilizers and giant machines and all that stuff, to over $100 an acre with regenerative farming, no subsidies from the government. Okay, right. So that's how the first one started.
So I just wanted to remind you that Flagler Radio has an amazing app, and you can easily go and download Flagler Radio app, and you can go on and look at all the wonderful shows, all the podcasts you may want to watch, including The Doctors Are In. So you can do that, and you can watch our last show and previous shows. And Mark does try to label those shows, but it's fast.
They can listen. I don't think they can watch.
Well, you can't watch. You can listen. And we don't we have a podcast, but we don't do video podcasts because it's hard for us to get into the station to do it.
Well, mainly because I like to do the show in my underwear, and they told me that's unacceptable to do on video.
Yeah, I think they would try to make it a family show because we love Mark and
I'd probably put
Dave
some pants
too,
on
and
for
I don't
that.
want to be offending them, but I am not in my underwear. But anyways,
she's topless.
No, I'm not either. So
giggity.
So the cool thing about this is they go into how pesticides not just affect us, but the impact that it has on our earth and on our health, because they talk about Monsanto's and how Monsanto's came up with after World War II, a lot of the nitrogen gases were used to create these different types of fertilizers that caused harm not only to the plants, but actually to humans. And so one of those chemicals was actually glyphosate, and it's sold as Roundup, and it continues to be sold as Roundup, even currently, despite the lymphoma stories that are out there and millions of dollars of lawsuits proving that people have died of glyphosate, and yet people still buy Roundup. And it's so deadly and it's so toxic to the body and to our cells and even to our bees. So many of the bees have glyphosate in them, and that's what's caused so much of the bee deaths across our country. And it's even in much of the honey that we purchase. It's in our California wines. That's why I don't drink California wines. It's actually in mother's breast milk, believe it or not, they've found. So it's really an unhealthy fertilizer. It was created to slow down the infectious rate of plants so that the plants wouldn't be infected. But that's not true. That really didn't come out to be the case. It
I
actually
thought it was supposed to be an antibiotic.
It was supposed to be an antibiotic, antifungal, help to protect. And the reality is it just kills weeds, but it does nothing to protect from infection. And so this is a dangerous situation when we use fertilizers and pesticides that are dangerous and not a health benefit, and we're not looking at the long-term consequences to the soil and to the other surrounding plants as well as to human life. And so we really have to understand it, and it goes into detail about how Monsanto's was very involved in this, and they did turn around and say that then Bayer bought it and they made a drug for lymphoma. But the truth of the matter is the lymphoma product that Bayer made did not get accepted by the FDA. So that's a little bit of misinformation on that video. But the point is Bayer got a big butt kicking when they bought the glyphosate mess, because they've had to pay a lot out, which really should have been redirected to Monsanto's.
Somebody should have done their homework.
Yeah,
I'm sure someone got fired at Bayer for that.
Yeah, and
for sure.
It still didn't probably pay off because they're paying a lot. But what I don't understand is they must be making a lot of money from Roundup, because it was supposed to be taken off the market in 2022 or 2023, because we heard some scientists, one in particular, Stephanie, I can't remember her last name, she came to Embry-Riddle to speak on glyphosate. She was from MIT, and it was supposed to come off the market in 2022 or 2023, and it's still being sold. So they are making a lot of money, and probably FDA did not put a mandate on the stop date because they're trying to gain their money. Meanwhile, they're hurting children and people.
Well, the problem is if you don't adopt the new regenerative farming paradigm, you're going to need these things to keep the plants alive. And the history of this stuff is just mind-boggling.
Stephanie Seneff is who spoke to us.
Right.
And if you guys ever want to look up, she's written scientific articles on glyphosate. She's from MIT, brilliant woman. And we had her come speak to the medical society. When I was president of the county medical society, I had her come speak to our physicians.
Okay. All right. So anyway,
she was fantastic.
She was awesome. But before I lose my train of thought, which I think I already have, so the glyphosate, basically, it came out and convinced these farmers that they had to use the big farm equipment and till the soil, and then they started spraying with it because you've got rid of the natural pesticides. If you don't keep the natural, things around on the earth, then you have to spray, and then you have to put fertilizers in because you don't have the natural. So they're selling all these things to the farmers, and when the Farm Bill came out, basically it was to subsidize these farmers so that they could produce what the growing America needed, and they would get subsidies from the government to help produce all of this stuff. And the Farm Bill was basically put together, and there were like little educational colleges that were that popped up to explain to farmers how they're supposed to use all this stuff to maximize their yield. And it turns out that these little colleges were sponsored by companies like Monsanto's. Monsanto's was giving them the money. So, of course, what they're going to do is put people in there that are going to sell products that Monsanto's makes, which was glyphosate. And they were finding out that glyphosate was actually toxic to some of the plants that these farmers were using or trying to grow. So Monsanto's took it upon themselves to genetically modify these plants so that they would be resistant to glyphosate, so they could sell more glyphosate. So now, basically, if the farmer wanted to grow corn, glyphosate would kill corn. So they genetically modified corn that could then live with glyphosate on it. So they could sell more glyphosate, and they could sell the genetically modified corn. So it was just a win-win for Monsanto's. And this went on for decades until people started to realize that this stuff was bad. And people that were out there spraying Roundup regularly started coming down with lymphomas and all kinds of weird different tumors and stuff like that. And when the lawsuits happened, I think Monsanto saw the writing on the wall, and somehow they unloaded this mess on Bayer, who was stupid enough to buy it. And if you go back and look at all this, they systematically convinced the entire world that they had to farm that way, using their chemicals, their genetically modified organisms, that they would then resist the chemicals that they were selling. And it's just amazing to me that they were able to do that. And they actually interviewed scientists who thought that the ways that we were farming were problematic 30 years ago, and Monsantos would come into the universities and talk to the presidents and everyone else, and they were giving these universities a lot of money and say, hey, we don't like this guy. He is teaching bad stuff. You need to fire him. So they controlled the entire narrative, right? I mean, basically anyone that was against them, they got them fired, and so they could keep selling this poison to us. And now, who knows how many people's lives they've ruined? How many people have gotten cancer from this stuff?
And people continue to buy Roundup, and so we encourage you not to buy Roundup. But I just wanted to give a little credence, because they do give a wonderful history of the American Indians and how they followed the buffalo, as the buffalo basically fertilized the soil and stampeded the land, and they were the earlier forms of cows that tilled the soil, and then they would follow because there was a large, lush produce after they had been through the ground. And then there was a famous farmer, an Afro-American farmer by George Washington. His name was George Washington Carver. We also think of him as the father of peanut industry. But he was a very interesting farmer who really, he was a slave back in 1964, but he was very prominent in...
He wasn't a slave in 1964.
1864, sorry.
I was going to say,
slavery,
I think we got rid of it
Missouri.
Then, I was born
Carver
in
was born
1864.
into slavery in Missouri in 1864. And he was a prominent agricultural scientist and inventor of transforming the farming and crop rotation. And he was instrumental in promoting this back in the day, but it got lost after the First World War with these big machines coming in then, and after World War II with the industry of these pesticides, which is such a shame. But we should give credence to that history, and they do in the movie, and I think it's very interesting. But I think it's important to remember that we have to understand the history and why things happen, and be very, very mindful. And when you can, to support these practices, because they're your life and they're the world that we live in, and we really need to honor that.
And the other thing we need to remember is anything the government is pushing as dogma is probably 100% incorrect. They've done it over and over again. We've seen it with the food pyramid, which was basically driven by the food industry to, sell grain. And we've seen it with farming. We've seen it with the vaccine. Every time the government says you need to do this, it's a problem.
Well, and I see it in the form of calorie counting, because 100 calories of popcorn turn into sugar. 100 calories of string beans actually turn into healthy food for your gut biome to decrease inflammation.
Yeah, stop listening to the government. Listen to us. We know what we're talking
nutrients.
about.
So really, calorie counting is not what you want. Does it regulate your plate to keep a small number of calories? But if the calories are unhealthy, they're not going to help you. And that's exactly what's happening with these shots, these weight loss shots. People will eat unhealthy foods, eat a small amount of food, but still make bad food choices. And so they're losing their hair or losing their muscles. You don't have to lose your hair and your muscles, but if you're going to eat poorly, only eat a little bit, and then the only thing you do eat is a little bit, it's dangerous.
A little bit of badness.
A little bit of badness will take you in a really bad way down the wrong road.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. If you have any questions for myself or Dr. Andrew, you can email us at thedoctorisin@WNZF.com. You're listening to The Doctor Is In on WNZF News Radio 1550 AM 94.9 FM. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
Radiology Associates has been a trusted name in Volusia, Flagler, and St. Johns County for over 50 years. Radiology Associates is the first and only radiology provider to bring our neighbors of Flagler County 3 Tesla MRI, 64-slice CT, and time-of-flight PET CT in our Palm Coast Imaging and Town Center Imaging locations. This is our community. Our doctors live here and strive to provide only the best care to you, our neighbors.
For more information about Radiology Associates, visit us online at radiologyassociatesimaging.com.
And we're back. For those of you just joining us, we've been talking about an awesome set of movies. Last week we talked about Kiss the Ground, and this week it's Common Ground. And the difference was basically in Kiss the Ground, we talked about how plants, if you let them naturally be, they will provide the soil what it needs to be productive. And, you don't need artificial fertilizers and pesticides. It's in the natural soil. So tilling the soil every year and stripping it of those nutrients is a mistake. And we're finding out that going back to regenerative farming, where you're using the natural CO2 trapping abilities of the plant to both trap CO2, put it into the soil, and take the energy from the sun and use that to produce nutrients that other plants can use, is a much better way to do farming than it is to strip all of that out of there, rip the soil up, and then put artificial fertilizers and pesticides in there. That was the bottom line, right? And, watching some of these guys who used to do the farming with the strip farming that were so far, there was one dude who was really hit at home. He adopted regenerative farming, basically using rotating cows in different quadrants to chew the grass. And his neighbor was still doing the classic strip farming. And he's standing on the corners of the two properties. And if you look at his property, I think it was off to his left, he's looking at it, and it is this lush green, thick field that just looks vibrant. There's butterflies flying around, birds all over the place. His neighbor that does the strip farming, it's basically the soil was probably about a half a foot shorter than his, right? Because you get so much runoff.
The soil
it
was
just
definitely
runs away.
dropped.
It was, and the ground looked barren.
It looked like
unhealthy.
dirt. It was dirt.
It was dirt. And looking at the difference between the
soil
two
and
of
dirt,
them
plants and
next to each other was just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And and it really hit home for me. And it makes so much sense. And before we saw these movies, Andrea had this idea with our own backyard. She met some guys, and they were talking about food forests, and you're basically turning your yard into a food factory. And I'm like, it's a novel idea. I wonder if it'll take off. Obviously, it's been going on. These guys took that concept and actually downsized it and made it so that you can put it right in your own backyard. And it's been awesome because, Andrea has some synergy with these guys that's called I Grow Food is the name of their company. And they took our backyard. And it's not just random, like, hey, we're going to put some plants here. These guys came in and surveyed our entire backyard. They look at the slope, the direction of the sun, winds, all that other stuff, the runoff from our house. We have a kitchenette out there. They took the runoff from that and put it into one of these swells. They built a series of swells and berms. The berms are the elevated areas that you put the plants on, and the swells are the dug out areas underneath that collect the water. And part of this whole process is they have plants that are called Chop and drop. I couldn't remember the name. Chop and drop. So they're basically used solely to capture the energy from the sun, make macromolecules and nutrients. You chop them down, you throw them into the swell, and when the water comes, that combination of breaking those plants up provides natural nutrients,
nitrogen and phosphorus
and
all carbon,
all the stuff that the plants need to grow. So you've eliminated the need to put in fertilizers. You've eliminated the need to put in pesticides because you're growing natural, molecules that help fight pests, and they keep them away. The other thing that I've noticed in our backyard now is we used to have a real problem with squirrels. They would come in and eat everything. Because our backyard is so vibrant now, we've got butterflies, we've got birds coming through there. We've got hummingbirds. We've got all kinds of things. And we've got a pair of hawks that sit back there. They're either hawks or peregrine falcons. I think they're hawks. They sit back there. We don't have a problem with vermin and squirrels anymore because these hawks sit up there and, because there's so much for them to eat because we got lizards all over the place. There were snakes in there. They got rid of all the snakes. So basically, they keep the place clean. So if you return your environment back to the way, nature intended, it'll take care of itself. You don't have to add a lot of stuff.
And we're providing so many more plants. And if we just had a green yard, of grass that was sprayed with grass fertilizers and pesticides and everything else. But our backyard is a place where we go and we actually get food.
Yeah.
Every day we go get string beans, we get tomatoes, we get eggplants, we get
It's really
herbs,
cool.
we get
other
grasses for salads and
I see what's
greens.
growing, and I'm like, oh, this is what we're having tonight. We're going to have eggplant tonight, or we're going to have, green beans tonight.
And it's really not that much work. We do have some guys that help us with the weeds, but there's just not that many weeds, and we don't have to do it so aggressively. The rain has brought more, but it really is very manageable. So for any of you that are interested in that, please call Shield of Life or email us at Shield of Life. It's shieldoflifefl@gmail.com, shieldoflifefl@gmail.com. If you're interested, and they have very fair prices and they definitely will work with you. But we really can't encourage you enough to help your own yard, your own health, but it actually helps the earth.
And we were just telling you about the vegetables. We actually have
we have
plums that
fruits
come out
too.
every year. We got peaches now that come up.
Avocado plants.
We've got avocado
We have tomatoes.
plants. We've got the figs and the what are the other things that I love?
Kumquats.
Oh,
We have kumquats.
Oh, and mango.
We have mango. We have lemons with lots of lemons and limes. Lots of lemon and limes.
And
we have dragon
guava
fruit
and dragon fruit.
guava.
Yeah, I mean,
and we have
it's
so
pretty
many
amazing.
herbs,
And
sage,
there's some things out there I don't even know what they are yet.
rosemary. We have a lot of herbs that can be used for
What is that
medicinal.
vanilla
Lemon
plant?
balm.
The ice cream
The
thing?
ice cream, a vanilla bean plant.
Is it vanilla bean or ice
Yes,
cream?
and roselle. We have different types of hibiscus that you can make teas with, and I made jam with that everybody
It's really
loves.
cool utilizing your yard. And we started off with a smaller project right in our backyard. We have another piece of property next to our house that we bought years and years ago, and one day we're going to extend all of that to have more stuff out there, because it's once you see it happening, it's pretty amazing. Oh, bananas. We got a whole bunch of bananas too. So, and now Andrew's got this new project she's doing where she's taking all of her compost and she's throwing it into the yard next door. She's planted bananas around the edge of it, and
It's called a banana ring.
the bananas are going bananas. They love it.
Yeah, they love it, and so they're propagating new little banana plants. But the compost
It's like a banana
goes
orgy out there.
in the center. You always have to bring it back to that kind of stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
So there's like a
You know
banana.
Maggie's gonna be upset with that one.
There's a banana ring, so the banana plants, and then I put the compost in the middle, and it feeds the plants. But it's just fascinating, and it's so much fun to walk back there. And it's funny, when we're not in town, and I have someone sitting at our house that watches the house and waters the plants. I always tell her, make sure you talk to the plants, that Mom will be back soon. So we may not have dogs anymore, but we sure do talk to the plants and make sure that they're feeling the love from whoever's coming around, and making sure we're grateful for all that they do for the earth and for us.
It's just a good thing you're so hot, because sometimes you're just crazy.
I know, I'm a tree hugger. I'm sorry, guys.
You
I've
are
really
crazy.
turned into a tree hugger.
Yeah, I still love you.
But hey, you know what? When you do that garden in the back of your yard, you're going to be a tree hugger too. We should have Shield of Life tree hugger shirts. I think that should be the new shirt for us.
That'll just confirm the craziness. Instead
That's
of keeping
okay.
it inside, everyone's going to know.
That's
but
okay.
Go ahead.
You know
go ahead.
what? Hey,
you
if
can pull it
everyone is-
off. If anyone can pull it off, it's you.
If everyone
Honey.
is healthy and they have healthy gut biomes and they don't have dementia and their assets are not going to hospitals and nursing homes,
What did
I'm all
you
for
said
it.
something else in between there.
No, I was choking.
Oh.
No, if they,
you
you
said
have to
something about
remember
asses.
when you don't know, that's you listening differently.
No, I swear-
assets. If your assets do not
assets.
go, you don't want your assets to go to a
thought your
nursing
asses
home
were going
and
somewhere.
to hospitals and unnecessary medical expenditures for one
We'll have to play the
consultant
tape
after
back.
another consultant, because you're just trying to find more problems. If you just live consistently healthy, you won't need all the different specialists. You will begin to heal, but you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to eat the veggies. You got to stop drinking the alcohol. You got to do the exercises. You got to spend time to be happy and love and listen and be part. The world is made up for fun, not for us to hurt each other and hurt you. And you shouldn't be on these damn freaking meds.
Oh my gosh! And cover your assets. Assets,
Yeah.
right?
Make sure you save them and pass them on to
Cover
your
your
families and the people you
assets.
love, and not
That's what
passing
you
them
said,
on to a
assets.
hospital or a nursing home. Yes, the assets, Scott. You protect your assets.
Right.
You know, you just can't do a show.
I
with him.
can't stop.
He can't help himself.
I can't stop. I got a problem. I need a 12-step program.
Yeah,
Can you recommend somebody?
I've been with you for 30 years, love.
I'm not changing.
Yeah,
it's too
I
late.
just don't think it's going to
too late
happen.
for
But
me.
I think some of the listeners love it.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll just have to accept it for what it is. But
Yeah.
I will be covering my assets if we go to a live show, for sure.
Yeah, well, you probably still slip up. I don't think you can hold back.
No, I do have a problem. But anyway, so it's been an awesome journey. I mean, Andrea's actually been on the forefront of this. And I used to tease the hell out of her. It turns out she was 100%
It's
right.
inflammatory, boys and
It's
girls.
inflammatory. That's what we said to kids, and I used to say that. And Andrew's like, "Don't eat that. It's inflammatory. Don't eat that stuff that's sprayed with glyphosate. It's inflammatory." And we'd be like, "It's inflammatory. Mom thinks it's inflammatory." That's what we would say to her.
Now the kids actually send me their recipes and what they're
I know.
cooking. Hey, Mom, should I buy this? Hey, should I buy this? Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And Stevie, who used to tell me he was an atheist, when he gets into problems and he's got a test coming up, he's like, Mom, can you say a prayer for me tonight? I'm like, oh, look at the atheist now asking for Mom to pray for him. I'm like,
Hey,
yeah. Okay.
Everybody has to come from somewhere. They
guess.
all grow up and learn the truth. All of us, not just Stevie. All of us.
Okay, yeah.
Papa too.
Yeah. Yep.
So
They say when you're walking through hell, don't stop, right? Just keep going, right? On the other end, you'll come out a little better than when you started.
Keep going to heaven. Keep going. Know where you're going. That's all I say. And with that, eat your veggies.
Yeah. Eat your veggies and grow your own plants and stop using glyphosate.
And save your assets.
Just listen, save your assets, and listen to Andrea. She knows what she's talking about. After all these years, I finally believe her.
After
All right.
30 years, he's
30
giving me
years.
some
I'm
credit.
giving you some credit. That's it.
And he loves my assets.
You're
and
not.
he doesn't
I love
want-
your
he
assets, girl. You
doesn't-
know that.
He doesn't want them going to nursing homes
You
for
know
sure.
that for sure. Yep.
He'd rather put them in our backyard.
All right, guys. We're probably going to have to get off the air before the FCC kicks us off. So that's about all we can do today. And if you guys have any questions for myself or Dr. Andrea, you can email us at thedoctorisin at doctorisin@WNZF.com. Stay happy, stay healthy. We'll see you next time. The doctors are